Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. A special welcome to our first-time visitors. We're so glad to have you here with us this morning. I'm Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I'm the senior minister here. And this month, actually for the whole year, we're talking about spirituality in action, like how we show up in the world. It's not about being in our meditative space or on this mountaintop where it's all about me and life is so wonderful. And it is wonderful, yes, it is that. But there's also where we're bumping up against other people. And that's not always as calm and meditative, is it? No. So we're talking spirituality in action. This month is all about giving of ourselves. And we've talked about giving of ourselves, of our presence. We've talked about giving respect. We've talked about giving gratitude, and today I'm going to talk about giving hope, real hope, and I'm qualifying that as real hope, because hope sometimes gets a bad name. Yes. Especially in this movement, in Centers for Spiritual Living, and New Thought, and Unity Communities. You say hope. In fact, I was at a function, was it last week? It was just last week. Yes, and someone said something about hope and said, I don't even do hope. Why would you do hope when you can have faith? Oh, that's interesting. Well, I'm going to speak to that. How many of you have heard this phrase? Spiritual bypass. Haven't heard the word spiritual bypass. So what that is, it's a widespread tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. Also, kind of the ugly stuff that we're seeing and things that happen. And we're so spiritual, it's like, I'm so light, I don't even have a shadow. Right? People like that? Maybe we've all done a little bit of that, as we come into this movement and you learn a little something and life is working and you got it all together and you start kind of maybe looking down on things or feeling like certain things are not spiritual anymore. So spiritual bypass manifests this way. It can. As exaggerated detachment, that emotional numbing or repression, like, my life is really good. I'm so sad for you. Too bad. That yours, if you came to my center or if you did the spiritual practice that I do, your life would be a whole lot better. Yeah. Then there's overemphasis on the positive. And we believe very much in the power of mind. So we want to focus on the things that are good, the things that bring us joy, the things that we want to see more of. So when those things that are a little uglier kind of creep into your awareness, you're like, I don't see that. I'm not acknowledging that. I'm not dealing with that. Can anyone relate? Yeah. Right? I have done all of these things, so I'm not pointing any fingers. Okay, it starts here. What I teach, I'm very often teaching because I need it more than anyone else. How about anger phobia? Once you become spiritual, you stop getting angry, or you think you should, or you're afraid of people that get angry, or don't know what to do with it. Or can anyone relate to that one? Yeah. Anger phobias? Yeah, some of us have no problem with that. How about blind or overly tolerant compassion? Because I'm so spiritual, because I'm so good, and I see the good in everyone, that sometimes we don't see the things that maybe could use some tweaking. Thank you, good word. And how about not having solid enough boundaries, right? Because we're trying to be so spiritual, and you're giving people the benefit of the doubt, you're giving them over and over and over chances, or giving them to yourself, when maybe it's time to say, this is it. This is my line, and we don't cross it. Right? You don't cross it, I don't cross. There's a boundary there. And sometimes when we think we're so spiritual or want to be spiritual, that we release those boundaries, and that's not always healthy. How about emotional and moral development are not on par with intellectual development? Now, there's a few people I can think of that fit that bill, that are so brilliant, and they can reason anything, but the heart, the compassion, has not reached the same level of development as their intellect. Do you know those folks? Yes. Right? So they're approaching spirituality from a very head-centered place, not a heart-centered space. And that can cause spiritual bypass as well. How about making judgments about our own negativity, our own shadow, our own places where we fall short? Right? Do you ever feel bad? Like, I'm a spiritual person, I'm not supposed to get depressed. I'm a spiritual person, I'm not supposed to get angry. Does anyone else have that?
Yes.
Anyone else relate to that?
That'll slow you down.
That's why I have you, babe. He helps me talk through these things, yes, and he keeps it real. Continually giving me opportunities to practice what I preach. How about the belief in having arrived at a higher level of being? Right? How many of us? We've done a lot of work, I am at a new level. Right? But then you get that place of like, yeah, I got it together, man. I'm spiritually enlightened. I don't know about you all, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then that can turn into victim shaming as well, right? If your life isn't working as well, maybe you need to take a look at it and see what you're not doing. Are you tithing enough? Are you giving enough? Or we can get on our kind of high horse about things and not really seeing what is so, what may be very, very pertinent and very important, because it doesn't look spiritual or what we've been telling ourselves spiritual looks like. Can y'all relate to that? Mm-hmm. So we know that spiritual bypass, I think it stops a lot of people from coming into spiritual community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like you can talk all this stuff, but you're not dealing with the mess that's back here. We're in denial, and that can happen very easily. That we can be in our own little bubble and feel like my life is working well, and yours should be too, and yours could be if you only did what I did. So I think it's time for people to really be real. Be real. We have this great big huge vision, and we talk about a world that works for everyone. And I use the analogy, I've shared this before, of being in your vehicle and you want to go somewhere, so you have your destination in mind, right? And you plug it into your GPS. Now, if your GPS doesn't know where you are, can it get you where you want to go?
No.
Right? It actually happened to me. I put an address in my GPS, and for whatever reason, it found the location, but it couldn't figure out, it didn't know where I was. Therefore, I couldn't get the directions for how to get where I needed to go. Make sense?
Yes.
So, I believe that we really need to acknowledge the reality of some of what we're dealing with right now in this world. We can say it's all spiritual, it's all God, and it's all good, but there's some stuff going on that's like a hot mess.
Yes.
And this is a headline. All of the stuff that I pulled up this week is things that are very, very recent. That's a headline from December 2018. The CDC, after another series of studies and surveys, says that life expectancy is down, as Americans are dying younger due to suicide and drug overdose. That's a scary thing. It's a sad thing. And I want to read you a little bit from the people that at the CDC. They said, we're seeing a drop in life expectancy, not because we're hitting a cap of people in their 80s. We're seeing a drop in life expectancy because people are dying in their 20s and 30s. This is the first time since we've been keeping track of these kinds of numbers that this is happening. Let's see. In general, William Dietz of George Washington University says the main themes of this report are very disturbing, partly because deaths from overdose and suicide are likely linked. Both may be caused by social shifts in the U.S. that have caused people to become less connected to each other in communities. There's some data to suggest that this has led to a sense of hopelessness, which in turn could lead to an increase in rates of suicide and certainly addictive behaviors. Let's see what else I want to say about this. And then from another gentleman, this is Martin Seligman, who is the former president of the American Psychological Association, speaking also about this epidemic. He says, we've discovered two astonishing things about the rate of depression across the century. The first was that there is now between 10 and 20 times as much of it as there was 50 years ago. I'll say that again. Rates of depression are between 10 and 20 times as much as they were 50 years ago. The second problem is that it seems that it has become a young person's problem. when I first started working in depression 30 years ago, the average age of first onset was 29 and a half. Now the average age is between 14 and 15. Yeah, it's a real problem. So for us to be in our spiritual, castles and think, oh, it's all wonderful, it's all good. Remember what we're bumping up against. And even within ourselves, and telling ourselves that it's not right to feel what we feel, that I shouldn't be depressed. After all, I'm a spiritual person. I'm doing all my practices. I shouldn't have this anxiety. I shouldn't have this anger. We just need to get real about what is so. And they're calling it epidemic hopelessness, right? Mental health disorders are the leading cause of disability. Did you all know that? Mental health disorders, leading cause of disability, not just in the U.S., but around the world. Major depression is on the rise among Americans in all age groups, but the fastest, like I said, is teens and young adults. So we have a third of college students reporting periods of depression, and 1 in 4 talking about suicide. Youth mental health is worsening. We're seeing that, right? Increased drug abuse, the suicide rates again. According to that 2018 CDC report, suicide rate is the highest it has been in over 50 years. That's a 30% increase in the past 20 years. And then I just threw in another one about our servicemen, our military people. 30% of active and reserve military deployed to Iran and Iraq have mental health problems requiring treatment. Less than half of those will get help. So we talked about spiritual bypass. Now some of us don't have that problem. Some of us are very much in it, right? There are those of us who are what we call empaths. Are you all familiar with that term? Empaths or highly sensitive people. Those are terms that are used to describe people with higher than normal levels of empathy. Like, we say, I see you, I hear you. The empath says, I feel you. Right? I feel your pain. I'm seeing the heads going like this. There's lots of people I know that are in this group, our spiritual community, and also watching online, that are empaths, that are highly, highly sensitive people. They're like emotional sponges. I'm going to say we, because I'm one of these. I count myself in this group of people. Absorbing the emotions and energy of people, animals, and elements, and all kinds of things in your environment. And sometimes it's hard to shut off. Mm-hmm. Can anyone relate to that? Mm-hmm. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Look around the room to see who all of the empaths are. Right? We come into this teaching because we're helpers. Many of us come into this teaching because of our own wounds. It's what I call the wounded healer. Not what I just call the wounded healer. That's an archetype, a Jungian archetype. How many of you have heard that? Wounded healer. The wounded healer is the person who has been through some kind of pain, some kind of drama, some kind of thing in their life, that going through that situation gives them deep, deep understanding of other people, especially who've been through similar things. And so we use that pain. That pain becomes our catalyst. It becomes a source. It's like the Rumi quote that says, the wound is the place the light enters. We say, the wound is the place from which the light emerges. Right? So people who've been traumatized very often have a very keen sense of people's feelings and people's nature around them, because we had to learn how to navigate that stuff as children. Right? So that becomes a situation then for people who are spiritual, who are on this path, who are helpers. Like, how do you shut that stuff off? And I do my spiritual practice, and I have to say, the things that I've been seeing recently just almost have me over the edge. I understand the hopelessness. Like, I get it in a really deep way. I don't know if I can bring it up. These children that are at the border, right? I'm thinking about babies and kids that don't have blankets or beds or, soap and toothpaste, or somebody to just love them, just hug them. The lights are on continually where they can't even get any sleep. This is torture. This is torture. And how how we can call ourselves a civilized nation and not have a better way to deal with this. It's just unconscionable for me. You know, and if I immerse myself in that, it's too much. It's just almost too much. But I also don't want to be in the space of spiritual bypass and say that it is any less than the cruelty and the horror that it is. Because it is. It is, and we need to do something. So if I use my platform to just speak this,
Amen.
It's not political, this
Amen.
is human rights.
Amen. Amen.
This is human rights. So we need to speak truth to bullshit.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, that's
Amen.
a phrase from Brene Brown.
Yeah.
A quote, direct quote.
Yeah.
As leaders, that we speak truth to what we see. This is also part of giving respect to people. Remember that when we give respect, it's three things. Your presence, that means when I'm speaking to you, when we are one-on-one, I am here 100%. It's not that my body's here and my mind is someplace else. When we give respect to someone, we give them our presence. We listen to people. That's how we give respect. That's how we bring people away from that ledge, right? Is to listen, to give them our presence. And the other thing that Paul Chappelle said is that we can't be hypocrites. We have to be authentic. When we speak from a place of truth, then we can earn people's respect. If I'm telling you one thing and doing another,
Amen.
that is a disrespect.
Yes.
Right? To say that we have family values and we care about children and all the things that are the virtues, you know, that we say that we are as Americans and we're not doing it, that's hypocritical and that's a disrespect and that is wrong. That is wrong. And we all need to be stepping up and being our authentic selves and walking the talk. So then, how do we as spiritual people reconcile this whole thing, this hope and faith, with the painful stuff that we're seeing? So I'm going to start with hope. Why does hope have a bad name? Why does hope have a name?
Disappointment.
Because of disappointment. Because I'm going to show you some of the reasons. We're going to break it down. Like, what is hope? Like realistic hope. So this is like a matrix. On the bottom, I've got our grasp of reality. On the one side, you have an uninformed or distorted view of reality, or actually being in flat-out denial. Right? There is that. Then on this side, we have an informed and accurate view of reality. The other side of the matrix is your outlook on life, which we all know can range from very negative to maybe skeptical to then being really positive. So when you have a negative outlook on life with an accurate reality, sense of reality, you're surrendered, but you're in a place of lost hope, right? Because of a negative expectation. So hope is positive expectancy. When you're in a place of negative expectancy, that's where that is. Right? The expectation that things are going to go bad. They have been bad, they're going to continue to be bad. Then we have where your view of reality is distorted, or maybe there's some kind of denial again, and your outlook is negative. And that's a place of no hope. Right? Because your outlook is negative, and your expectation is negative, and your view of reality is unrealistically negative. Right? Or it has, not that unrealistically, but that's where you're putting all of your focus and attentions on negativity. And this is the one I think that gives hope a bad name. It's when we're in that uninformed place or that distorted reality or living in that denial and saying life is wonderful. That's like wishful thinking, right? Having a positive outlook with distorted sense of reality is wishful thinking, and that is false hope. Got it? The last place is where we want to be. We want to have a positive outlook that is based on an accurate sense of what is going on. Right? Like seeing the truth, living in that truth, but still having a positive expectancy of it. And that is being committed, and that's what we call real hope. Real hope. Does that make sense for everybody? This was really helpful for me to break it down this way. That's the section, that's what I'm talking about. Positive outlook, accurate reality, real hope. Hope is not wishful thinking. Hope is the belief that things can be better and that we can make it better. That we have some agency in that. Right? That we can make a difference in our own lives, the lives of other people. The next thing is the combination of a positive outlook with a firm grasp on reality. And also, hope is a way of being that we can learn, that we can practice, that we can teach to other people. We can get better at it. If you're feeling in a place right now like you're not very hopeful, maybe there's been a lot of stuff going on in your life, and you're not feeling that, you can practice it. You can practice it. What is the expectancy? Break it down for yourself. What am I thinking is going to happen? Is that the reality, or can I change that? We can learn how to be more hopeful. So then the question, what is faith?
It's a gift.
What is faith? Faith is a gift. Faith is a lot of things. I found just one quote that I thought kind of summed it up.
Yes.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And I use that picture of the sunlight. You know, the sun is just peeking over. It looks like it's probably morning. Because I think to myself, the difference between faith and hope. I have faith, an unquestioning belief that the sun is going to come up tomorrow. Absolute faith in that. I don't question it. I don't think about it. It's just a knowing. We all know. I know anyway. The sun's going to come up. Now, do I have faith? Absolute. That same absolute faith that I'm going to wake up to see it? I can't say that. If I'm being honest with myself and honest with you, and none of us can say that.
Right.
I certainly hope that I will wake up to see tomorrow and many more tomorrows, but I don't have the same faith that that will happen as I do that the sun is going to come up. So I have faith. I have faith in spiritual principle. I have absolute, unquestioning faith that peace is possible. Why do I have that faith? Because I live it. Because I see it. Because I experience it. Because the things that I teach, I get to see the result. I get to see it. I see it changing. I see the shift. Now, does that mean that I have faith that every one of us is going to experience that same peace?
No.
I have hope. I have hope. But I can't say I have the same faith. I have faith that peace is possible. I have faith that one day peace will come. I don't know that I have faith that I will see it in my lifetime. I don't know even that my grandchildren will. But you know what? I don't need faith that I'm going to see it in order to move in a positive direction. Right?
Yes, yes.
The hope is enough to keep me moving in that direction. I see the greater possibility. I have faith that it is possible. And I have the hope that we can make it so. And that's enough.
That's enough, yes.
That's enough. So even amidst all of the mess that I taught, those statistics that I told you about, right? The depression, all these awful things that are happening. Also, in this same week, I found reasons to feel hopeful. One of them was this.
Yes.
Did y'all see this? I posted this on my Facebook. This was in a space of about 20 years. This couple, let me read it to you. That's in Brazil. Over the course of 20 years, Brazilian photojournalist Sebastião Ribeiro Salgado and his wife Leila have transformed a barren plot of land into a thriving forest. 1,754 acres. The trees have come back, 293 different species of trees, the birds, the mammals, the amphibians, all of these things came back in a period of 20 years. Look at the difference, 1,700 acres. Here's another, reasons for hope. That was called the biggest beach cleanup ever. Started in 2015. Afroz Shah moved to an apartment near Versova Beach, which is in Mumbai, by the way. He was shocked by the pollution he saw. The beach was covered in rotting garbage. So nobody could walk along this beach. This man and his neighbor, who was 84 years old, two men, started cleaning up the beach. They soon realized that it was too much for them to handle. They started recruiting other people. Now there are thousands of volunteers. In a period of 20 months, it went from that mess to that pristine beach. In 20 months, two people. started that. More reasons for hope. Advances in science and medicine. This is crazy. Crazy stuff is happening. I've been having some issues with arthritis in my knees. I go to a doctor and find out that they're doing some procedure where they can put stem cells that are not from either from your body personally or from umbilical. So no babies, no one's harmed in this process. That will regenerate cartilage. And it will regenerate other tissues in your body. It's amazing. You know, the time of cutting and poisoning and burning people to heal them is on its way out.
Yes.
That's a reason to be hopeful. You know, we've got advances in DNA where you can look and you can alter the structure of the DNA. You can look at the DNA and know, am I supposed to eat beans or is it okay for me to eat beef? Like, you know, the test can tell you this. This is amazing stuff. Incredible things are happening. More reasons for hope. Restorative justice works. I've seen it up close. That was also a headline from this week. New York City, they've made a commitment to teaching social emotional learning and restorative justice in all of their public schools. Wow. Reasons for hope. That's amazing. This is what's going to start to turn this thing around. This picture, young people that are stepping up. You know, they're kids. They're saying the leaders aren't doing it. There was I saw it on one of somebody's picket sign they were holding. The leaders are acting like children. The children are going to have to act like leaders.
Yes.
That one says, skipping climate change is worse than skipping school. The oceans are rising, and so are we. Right, 15-year-old girl now has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize because of her work in climate change. Right? So reasons to be hopeful. And then this one. New baby joined us this week in our family, Addison Clare. She was 8 pounds, 11 ounces. Born Monday. She's the smallest one of the bunch. And I love that quote. I think Carl Sandburg said, "A baby is God's opinion that life should go on." Right? So reasons for hope. These are the things that make me hopeful. Now you all are being called to be something greater. You're being called to be the love that you're not seeing. You're being called to be that kindness. You're being called to be compassion, joy, possibility, hope, and faith where there is none. You see, it's not an accident that you all are here today. It's not an accident that whoever is listening to this message today was listening to the message today. Right? This is a message for you. This is a message for each one of us. We're to be that hope. We're to be that spark of light. We're to be that love and compassion and joy. Right? Because you've heard the message now. Now it's time to pass it along. You see, we are either affirming life or denying it. We're either accepting it or rejecting it. We have faith or fear, hope or despair. We experience good or evil, love or hate. We live in heaven or hell. In our conversation, we are either saying yes or no to life.
Amen.
In every moment is a moment of choice. You get to choose. When we are turned to the light, all shadows are cast backwards, but when we turn from the light, the shadows are in front of us. Now just look at me. I'm turning toward the light. Where is the shadow? It's behind me. Now if I stand and I want to face that, I can face it.
Yes.
Right? And I'm looking at the shadow.
Yes.
But that's all I'm seeing.
Yes.
The light is behind me. So you want to face the light.
Always.
Right? You want to be in that positive expectancy of realistic hope. Right? You want to choose faith over fear. And things will begin to change, not just in your life, but in the lives of everyone you touch. It will create that ripple effect. And we'll be on our way. We are on our way to creating that world that works for everyone. And so I leave you with this affirmation. And I'm going to say it and invite you to say it with me. I live in hope and faith, saying yes to life and its great possibilities.